What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Three and Out YouTube page. I'm John Middlekauff, and we are talking football all day, every day. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends. Let's roll, baby. You're a big Oregon guy, and after Bo Nix and everyone had a take, I just went and watched. I mean, obviously, you watch every game, and I watch
Yeah.
the majority of Oregon games, but just went back and watched some cut-ups on YouTube. Actually kind of reminded me a little bit if you went back way back to like when Jimmy was coming out, or even Derek at Fresno State, like
Yeah.
the athleticism, the accuracy, but the offense was, it's not what he's going to run specifically in the pros. But looking back, those guys, Derek, we could argue about him all day long, but Jimmy, when he was younger, was a really good player. Like, I think Bo Nix is going to probably be pretty good for Sean Payton.
So my comp for Bo Nix was like a more athletic Derek Carr, which might bother people, but that's sort of what I thought about him. The one thing about Nix that I think is the misconception, it's really two things, but tying into one is this idea of like he checks down all the time. There was a stat I saw like he had 1,000 yards of passing yards of balls behind the line of scrimmage essentially.
Yeah.
And I went back and looked, and five plays total accounted for 20% of that number. And two of them were actually run plays that were considered pass plays because where the ball was handed off. And one was like a 75-yard screen. Like that's not his fault, like you can't do anything about it if a guy runs for 75 yards. So a lot of those numbers can be misleading. The Oregon passing attack, when it's just a regular passing attack, when it's an out of play action, out of sort of at times the RPO stuff, it's actually very pro style. There's a lot of West Coast concepts to what they do. If you watch kind of intently on sort of, they form that triangle when you throw. So like there's always kind of a three read triangle for him. A lot of those, there's a lot of empty stuff too, which he'll have to do in the NFL, which he was very comfortable with. But I don't see that like Caleb Williams upside, right? Like, I think that's the hard part about drafting these quarterbacks. You're sort of stuck, right? Like, you need a young quarterback. Bo Nix, if he's Derek Carr, you're probably happy about his career until you get tired of sort of not winning, I think, to the level you want to win at. And that's hard because, Caleb Williams, I think, is going to be incredible. And Bo Nix is just not going to ever be quite that good. And that's just sort of how it goes with the quarterback position. I think Bo Nix is going to be good, but he's never going to be a Pro Bowler, probably not. I mean, that's feels unlikely.
To me, the reality too is when these guys evaluated, and Andy told me when they did Mahomes and Sean Payton, I watched an interview. He said this: we just out of our cut ups, we just remove those passes. Like we don't
Oh
want
yeah,
that pass behind the line. So it's people are like, well, he throws. Yeah, we don't care as long as he's hitting those guys. We know accurately. It's fine. Like we're not evaluating those plays. Like
correct.
so it's like we're not like yeah, we understand he can throw behind the line of scrimmage, which you're gonna need to do sometimes in the pros. Maybe not all that play, but wheel routes, check downs. Like you do need to be accurate on that play. Why do a lot of players, bust? Obviously they struggle down the field not reading stuff, but they get frazzled and then they fuck up the layup,
Yeah,
right? I mean, how many players have we seen with like sweet traits that like once they get frazzled, they have to dump it down to their running back or airmailing it to the trainer?
yeah, and like their foot, what's all footwork, right? Their footwork are on the back foot, and they're just not. I'm saying there were plays Bo Nix made where there was one against USC at a touchdown where sort of everyone just cleared out, and he's like, "Cool, I'll throw the running back. No one's in the
Yeah.
like that." That's a smart decision, and he's not Patrick Mahomes, obviously, but Mahomes has gotten better because he's decided to take those layups. Like he's like, cool, you want to give me 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards? I'll take it. Great. Now he can make special plays that Bo Nix will never be able to make. But Nix is not. I think Nix is going to be a better pro than Michael Penix, for example. Um, that doesn't mean he's going to be again an all pro, but I think he'll be very serviceable for many years.
Well, I think the Atlanta Falcons are like, I think that's got disaster written all over it. Ton of pressure. Cousins coming off the injury, the weird Penix thing, everything. And I told you this last time we talked. Everyone's picking them to win the division. I'm just strictly not. Partly out of like everyone's doing it, everyone's hanging a left. I'm going to hang a right. But
Yeah.
also, this team has been winning 7 games for 3 straight years. We hype up their talent, and they didn't just hire Vrabel or Tomlin got fired and they hired him like a guy that okay we know he knows what he's doing. Raheem Morris, well liked, clearly a solid defensive coordinator, awesome to have on your staff. we have no clue what he's going to be as a head coach.
Yeah.
None.
I think
the division's not great, and I'm not saying they're going to suck, but it will not shock me if all of a sudden we look up and, Bucks are 10-7 and they're 9-8 or 8-9. They've missed the playoffs.
Well, I make a rule to never bet on the Falcons for anything because I lose every wager anytime I ever want to bet on the Falcons for anything. I think it's mostly about just division not being great, but Tampa Bay returns a lot. They won the division last year, if I'm correct, right? Like they're not a bad football team. They're not winning a Super Bowl, but they're not a bad football team. The Panthers should be better just by default of, I think, just different coach and different players. I'm not high on the Saints for the reasons not high on teams. I don't love the coaching. I don't love the quarterback, but the Falcons, the thing with Michael Penix is, people talk about distractions. Like, what is a distraction in the locker room? A distraction is sort of as simple as put, like, it's anything that takes away from the preparation of your game every week. And when Cousins has a bad game, which he's going to do at some point, Monday morning, going to have open locker room, John. People are going to walk up to Kyle Pitts and say, should Michael Penix be playing? Is there a quarterback change? They're going to ask Morris. Is Cousins going to keep a job? Like, that's a distraction, John, when you're talking about something that has nothing to do with winning and losing during that current week. And that's the thing with Penix. And it just, the Falcons' reasoning was right. Like, if everything goes well, we just don't have to play him for 4 or 5 years. Then why'd you draft him with the first? You have other holes on your team. It doesn't feel like it's going to end up going well for them.
See, to me, that's the crazy part about college football. Because, like, now with the transfer portal, at least in the NFL, like, guys are in a contract kind of stuck when things aren't going well. In college, it's like, I'm out. Some of these locker room dynamics, it's easy if you're rolling like Ohio State or Georgia or Bama. But the majority of teams, even the good teams like LSU, 9-3 teams, you get some rocky times, throughout the year where guys like, fuck it, I'm going to go to Ohio State next year. It's got to be pretty wild internally.
I don't know how these college coaches do it, man. I don't know how they do it. Because I have friends, all over the spectrum, right? From, obviously I'm close with the Oregon staff, but knowing guys at other Power 5 schools, knowing a couple coaches on the G5 level. It's about more than anything else right now, like money, John, right? Like, can you have an NIL program that keeps players around? Because as soon as someone plays well, they're getting tampered with, right? They're getting talked to behind the scenes, and people are trying to poach these guys, and you want to be able to keep them. And so, do you have the money to keep these players? I think the money is far less than we think it is. I know numbers get reported out, and there's certainly a Jada Rashada, number and lawsuit. That's not, I think, what a lot of players are dealing with.
Is that the fakest number? Like, you should have red flagged that. Someone in his dad be like, this can't be real.
Yeah, the other one that people have mentioned is the one for Nico, the quarterback of Tennessee. It was like $8 million. Like, I know what guys at Oregon were sort of getting last year. It wasn't $8 million. I mean, it's a lot. So these coaches, the difficult part, I think, for coaches is basically designing a practice plan and a reps plan to keep players from transferring. Because you have to basically make sure, John, that players feel like they're going to play. The thing about the portal too is we talk about the high-end talent. Certainly there's high-end talent everywhere, and those are going to certain schools. But the portal is not good because for your team, I mean, for the most part, you need depth on your team, right? If your depth pieces are transferring out, then that's a huge problem for you. And so you have to design a practice plan, all the position coaches, to make sure that players feel like they have a chance to play when they don't have a chance to play. And it's a different dynamic. When I was going through, when you were with Pat Hill at Fresno State, they didn't give a shit. Oh, you suck. You're just not going to get any reps at practice. Like, who cares? You're not going anywhere. But now you can't treat players like that because they're just going to pack them and go to the portal, and you need to have a 2 deep to be competitive. Your third string guy leaves, like, whatever. Who cares? So that's the hard part about the portal for the coaches is, and I think that's why a lot of coaches are just like, I'm out of here, right? Like, I don't want to deal with older coaches. I just don't want to deal with having to coddle players that aren't going to play to make sure they don't leave. So if they have to play at some point this season, I have to make sure that they're ready to, and feel like they're loved in the program.
Forget what the calendar says. Football season is right around the corner. And that means Best Ball Week at DraftKings isn't far behind. Here's what you need to know. DraftKings Best Ball Millionaire Contest is their biggest fantasy contest ever. We're talking 15 million guaranteed prize pool with that's right, 2 millionaires being crowned for the first and second place. If you're a set it and forget it type, I know I am, then Best Ball is for you. No waiver wires, no roster management, bigger rosters, so injuries will not ruin your season. Only the draft, and that's it. You're set for the year. Some of you might have heard I won $18,000 a couple weeks ago at the U.S. Open. It's an incredible high. But $15 million in prize pool, how do you beat that? Multiple millionaires crowned with winning this. I can't even imagine the high being in the mix. And like they said, no roster management. Injuries won't impact you because you got bigger rosters. Still not convinced? Check this out. This year, DraftKings is offering everyone a draft one, get one special. Your $20 entry fee scores you a bonus ticket. Get ready for best ball week at DraftKings. Download the DraftKings app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for all customers who enter the NFL Best Ball 15 Millionaire Contest to get a bonus ticket. Only during Best Ball week, only on DraftKings.